mobilizing 300,000 reservists as it fights to regain control of the border after Hamas militants launched an unprecedented incursion over the weekend. The United States said at least 11 American citizens are among the dead and more are unaccounted for, including some who may be among the hostages held by Hamas. Well, in Washington today, President Joe Biden said that more than 1,000 civilians have been killed by Hamas fighters, including women, children, and elders, acts he characterized as pure, unadulterated evil. President Biden said that 14 Americans, not 11, were among those who were killed. He also said that Americans were among those Hamas militants had taken hostage and threatened to kill if Israelis struck at civilians without warning. Joe Biden said this is terrorism as he spoke to the nation from the White House, vowing unequivocally to stand with Israel. Federal prosecutors today filed a significant array of new charges against U.S. Congress member from New York, George Santos, accusing him of new criminal schemes, including stealing the identities and credit cards of donors to his campaign. The new accusations were made in a 23-count superseding indictment that laid out how Santos had charged his donors' credit cards repeatedly without their authorization, distributing the money to his and other candidates' campaigns and to his own bank account. President Biden was interviewed over the last 2 days as part of the investigation led by special counsel Robert Hur into the discovery of classified documents at Biden's private office and Delaware home. Hur, a former U.S. attorney from Maryland, who also held other posts in President Trump's Justice Department, was appointed in January to investigate how classified material came to be at the office Biden used in Washington after his vice presidency. And attorney Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s pivot yesterday to an independent run for president was met with immediate resistance from Republican leaders who have concluded that Kennedy's new effort threatens to cannibalize their vote share next year and would help to reelect President Biden. Kevin McCarthy said yesterday that he's willing to resume serving as House Speaker if enough of the Republicans who voted in favor of his ouster just last week are open to his reinstatement. McCarthy's comments come amid genuine concerns in the GOP conference that neither Steve Scalise or Jim Jordan can garner the necessary 217 votes to become Speaker. Will Hurd, a Republican former congressman from Texas who was once seen as a rising star in the GOP party, announced yesterday that he would suspend his presidential campaign. And in doing so, he endorsed Nikki Haley, the former UN ambassador and governor of South Carolina. Well, it's been a big year for labor unions and action. About 450,000 U.S. workers, from actors to auto workers, have participated in over 312 strikes. Now, corporate America is railing against striking workers, claiming that unions are demanding too much. Give in, and companies will be less profitable and at a competitive disadvantage. This is what the big business executives have been saying. But this isn't true. A plurality of shareholders said strike action was a potential buying opportunity for fundamentally strong companies. And today, the country is mourning the death of Hugh's Uncle Red Van Ellis. He is one of the last three known survivors of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. He died, according to family, in a nursing home in Colorado. Uncle Red, as he was fondly known as, was 102 years old. He was just a few months old when he and his older sister, Viola Fletcher, fled Tulsa's Greenwood district with their family as a violent white mob tore the thriving Black community, ultimately killing hundreds of residents and reducing rows of homes and businesses to ash. You're listening to Areva Martin in Real Time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, I am joined by two powerhouse thought leaders, Professor Shayla Lawson, who is a professor at Amherst College, and Dr. Malikah Rahim. She's a scholar and historian of U.S. and African American history at Appalachian State. And in hour two, you know what we do? We go deep and we dig behind those headlines and we bring you the biggest stories that have big impact as well as big headlines. And today we're talking about the civil lawsuit has been brought in New York by their Attorney General, Letitia James. This is the lawsuit that is busting wide open the myth that Donald Trump was ever or is a billionaire. I have two legal experts joining me in hour two to help break down what's happening in that trial and what are the prospects if Trump loses that trial. What does it mean for his real estate business and for him and his sons in terms of doing business at all in the state of New York? But before I bring on my guest, here's what I'm thinking about in real time today. The hypocrisy. I'm thinking about the hypocrisy of anti-abortion activists. And the level of their hypocrisy is literally at, for me, a point of causing nausea. I'm nauseated by the hypocrisy, the lies that are told by anti-abortion activists and the lengths that they go to support efforts to deny women bodily autonomy. And when I think about that level of hypocrisy, I'm thinking about what happened after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. It really gave a green light to near universal abortion restrictions in many states, including states like Idaho, where lawmakers have spent the previous years crafting laws and legislation that really deny women not only access to abortions, but really deny women access to high quality medical care that in many instances is life-saving. The governor in that state has acknowledged that women who might otherwise have terminated pregnancies, should be grateful. That's pretty much what he says. He has said that we need to come together. This is the governor of Idaho speaking, to support women and teens facing unexpected or unwanted pregnancies. But he is an avid supporter of abortion bans. So on one hand, he's saying, let's get together and support these women and teens. They should be grateful that they're in a state where, abortion is illegal, and we want to support them when they have an unwanted pregnancy. Now, compare that to what the state has actually delivered. And what they have delivered is disbanding a state committee that investigated the root causes of maternal deaths, making Idaho the only state in the nation with no such mortality review board. They being the legislators and governor in the state of Idaho, allowed two bills to die that would have put Idaho on the same track as nearly every other state with abortion restrictions. Idaho's Medicaid coverage ends 2 months after birth, the minimum under federal law. And they killed bills that would have extended Medicaid coverage for women in that state. They also turned down $36 million in federal grants to support childcare. So remember, I said, the statement from the governor was, let's get together and support women and teens who have unwanted pregnancy. What better way to support them by extending Medicaid coverage for postpartum conditions that many women suffer? What better way to support them than accepting federal grant dollars to support childcare? But they did neither. They refused on partisan principles, along partisan lines, to accept grant money from the Biden administration that could provide additional support for childcare. They refuse, again, because Joe Biden is president, he's a Democrat, to extend Medicaid coverage for women after birth. Now, one of the leading anti-abortion lobbyists in the state said, I'm not bothered by the lack of government support. He said, and this is the president of the Idaho Family Policy Center, He said pregnancies, birth, and child care are not the purview of the government. He said, but of families, communities, charities, and most of all, churches. Now let that sink in. Pregnancies, birth, and child care are not the purview of the government. Then why in the hell is the government telling women that they can't have abortions? The hypocrisy is nauseating. Really? Really? President of Idaho Family Policy Center? Really? Governor of Idaho and legislators of Idaho? Pregnancies, births, and childcare are not the purview of the government, but it's the responsibility of charities and churches. This president goes on to talk about the Bible and the history of Christendom and how the church is responsible to meet the needs of the poor and to ensure that people have services. Again, the hypocrisy is nauseating, and we cannot allow the president of the Idaho Family Policy Center, the governor of Idaho, or the Republicans that control the legislature in Idaho to gaslight us. If government is not responsible for taking care of women and children, government should not be in the business of telling women they must carry to term pregnancies. We have to stand up. We have to speak out. And we have to make sure that everybody knows this is pure, unadulterated trash. When we come forward, more on KBLA Talk 1580.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head. Yeah.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcasts of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader. Following the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar,
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
The bounce is back.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Raw Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Raw Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
There's a new sheriff in town.
All right, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, and starting September 18th, I couldn't be more thrilled than invite you to join us for the launch of A More Perfect Union, weekdays right here on KBLA Talk 1580, weekdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific Time, that's 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern. A More Perfect Union promises to deliver national news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. As KBLA Talk 1580's chief national political analyst, every day you can expect Project, your daily dose of political news of consequence. If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered to be a part of the solution to issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, A More Perfect Union was designed for you. This daily political affairs show will feature notable journalists.
All right, we are back, and this is Areva Martin in real time, and this is hour one, and this is the hour where we track today's trending and breaking news, and it has been a busy news day today. Joining me in this hour is Dr. Malikah Rahim. She's a scholar and historian of U.S. and African-American history at Appalachian State. Thank you so much for joining me and returning to the show. This has been a really big news day. Dr. Joe Biden went on television to address the U.S., the population, the people, American citizens about what is happening in Israel. This attack by Hamas terrorists over the weekend has the Republicans in Congress scrambling because they don't have a speaker at a time when perhaps the legislation needs to be passed to provide additional support to Israel as our ally. And the president had to reveal that more than 1,000 civilians have been killed by Hamas fighters. 14 of those are Americans, and that Americans have been taken hostage. This is just a horrific story. One of the things, though, I'm starting to see over the last couple of days is kind of the fissures, I would say, in the Democratic Party, particularly amongst what I'll call the super liberal wing of the party, some that even call themselves Democratic Socialists, and the more moderate wing of the party. New York this week, that was played out. There was a pro-Palestinian rally in Times Square, and a lot of elected officials were, feeling a little uncomfortable because otherwise, but for the attack over the weekend, they might have supported this rally. But even those who are pro-Palestinian within the Jewish community and the what I'll call the liberal wing of the Democratic Party, they had to backtrack on some statements that they made. What do you make of this moment and how it is exposing the complexity of U.S. support for Israel, but those in the party that also believe we should be acknowledging the atrocities that, Palestinians, not the Hamas terrorists who are separate, from the everyday, people who are part of the Palestinian nation, but just some of the fissures in the Democratic Party around, the Palestinian-Israel crisis that has been, going on as long as you and I have been alive.
Yes, thank you for having me back. And, just to start off with, this tragedy is horrific. Just to talk about the humanity aspect of it, to see the lives lost, to see the people who have been displaced, the people who have been taken hostage, the women and children who have lost their lives and are continuously losing their lives as this fight and this another war of aggression is taking place. Now, what we're seeing within the Democratic Party and what we're seeing within the United States, and I think globally at large, is a continuing fraction over what is happening in Israel when we're thinking about the Israelis versus the Palestinians, or if that should be a versus type of conflict at this point. What I advocate for is peace. I feel like the people who live in those regions deserve peace. Palestinians deserve peace, as well as Israelis deserve peace at this time, particularly the people who are innocent in this conflict, who has been experiencing this ongoing conflict for generations. But it is very telling what's going on in the Democratic Party. And I think we're all kind of split in wanting peace to come on both sides for the innocent people who are living there. And, again, separating the terrorist attack from the individuals, the innocent lives who live there. They do also need our support at this time, and to remember they're part of this larger conflict that we are trying to resolve. And I won't say too much again on the political side, because we just haven't seen enough of this current conflict to really know where we're going from here and what kind of peace we will be able to reestablish in that region. But I think it's very telling, because it's been an ongoing conflict for decades, that we are going to see some of the aftermath of what's been going on long term actually take place currently and throughout the future. And so I can't say too much, politically about it, because I think we have yet to see all the things uncover as to what is really rooting this ongoing conflict and how we really can bring peace to this region, to the people that live there.
One of the things, and I think you're absolutely right, it's early on. We don't know how this is going to be resolved. But one of the things I've been watching for, Doctor, as I'm watching the coverage on cable news, as I'm watching the coverage on the internet, is this sense that if you make a statement in support of the innocent women, children, families that are caught in this crisis, who happen to be Palestinians, that some people interpret that as an anti-Israeli stance or comment, and that, there has to be this binary choice that either you are standing solidly with Israel or you are not. And, you are a historian, and the deep-rooted animus between these two groups of people and how it has played out over the decades. But is there room in this discourse at this moment, when so many people have lost their lives, people have been kidnapped? I mean, the terror is so great, it's palpable for us here in the United States. But is there room to talk about in this moment the suffering of the innocent Palestinians, not the Hamas terrorists, not the folks that Biden condemned, that we all condemn, domestic terrorists, foreign terrorists? I mean, peace-loving people, and you and I are, and the president is, aren't supporting the terrorists. But it seems like you can't even say too much in support of the innocent Palestinians in this moment.
Yeah, it seems that way. But I think there is room to support the innocent Palestinians in this particular conflict. As I tell my students in the classroom when we're debating and, talking about history, whether it's in the past and even with these contemporary current day issues, it's always messy, it's always sticky, and we always want to draw a line in the sand and make everything black and white. And sometimes it's just sometimes gray. And it is okay, as I tell my students, that two things can be true. So in this case, yes, we can support the innocent Palestinians who are losing their lives and who are losing their families and who are losing their homes in this ongoing conflict, as well as we can stand with Israel against this terrorist attack that has taken place. Yes, two things can be true, and we can do both. And I find that in our society, trying to do one thing over the other is what allows these ongoing conflicts and these ongoing systems of oppression and inequalities to keep taking root in our society.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you said that. And that is true. I saw a scholar on, again, a program last night. And he was, and maybe he was responding to the comment that this was bound to happen because of the oppression of the Palestinians by Israel. And he was saying that the Palestinians, again, lumping them all together, not identifying just the Hamas terrorists, but saying, just because there is a prison break due to, horrible conditions in the prison, doesn't justify the prison break, was essentially his point. So shooting the guards is not justification, even if you've been oppressed in prison. And okay, I get that. Yes, you don't get to kill someone just because they've been mean to you or, you live in an oppressed situation. But I think for me, the nuance that wasn't there was that, as you just said, that there are terrorists, and even the Palestinians are at odds with, and many of them are not in support of these violent terrorist attacks that are being carried out by the Hamas terrorists. And this is such a nuanced, and complex issue. And when we try to reduce it, as you said, down to simple black and white, simple, you're with us or you're not, we get into trouble because it is far more complex than that. And but I do find that it's dangerous. And then, you again, are in an environment, and I'm sure colleagues that are Jewish, and we know that this is a very sensitive subject, as it should be. And I am in full support, 100% support of, the Israeli government and the people that are losing their lives, wishing all of them the best. But maybe this crisis, when it's not as raw, it gives us an opportunity to educate people and to have some conversations, because something has to happen in that region. I mean, how long can this continue?
Yeah, something has to change. And at the end of the day, we all bleed the same and we all die the same, right? And at the end of the day, I think we need to get down to the root of our humanity. And it's conflicts like this that allows us to question ourselves. What are we really fighting for? And who are we fighting against when we have larger, bigger enemies, particularly when we're thinking about those who want to cause us harm through acts of terrorism.
All right, when we come forward, there is still no evidence that the Republicans are going to pull together to select the next Speaker of the House. And people are starting to doubt if either Scalise or Jim Jordan, Steve Scalise or Jim Jordan, can pull it off. Also, I'm talking about this new superseding indictment involving disgraced Congressman George Santos and the endorsement by Will Hurd of Nikki Haley for president. Does it mean anything, given the standing that Will Hurd had in this primary nominating cycle? Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice and injustice, the courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities and sports figures, elected leaders and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Areva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Areva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the voice of reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader when the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. 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 Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a red spot, shot with a red spot, shot with a red spot.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
The bounce is back.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Raw Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Raw Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
There's a new sheriff in town.
All right, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, and starting September 18th, I couldn't be more thrilled than invite you to join us for the launch of A More Perfect Union, weekdays right here on KBLA Talk 1580, weekdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific Time, that's 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern. A More Perfect Union promises to deliver national news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. As KBLA Talk 1580's chief national political analyst, every day you can expect your daily dose of political news of consequence. If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered to be a part of the solution to issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, A More Perfect Union was designed for you. This daily political affairs show will feature notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and ordinary people motivated to do their part to reach beyond today's divisions, to make sense out of news of the day, and offer us all a chance to build a more perfect union. Come on and join me.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for
I'm back, and this is the first hour of Areva Martin in real time, and this is the hour where we are breaking down today's trending and breaking news, and it has been a busy news day. Dr. Malikah Rahim, a scholar and historian of U.S. and African-American history at Appalachian State, is here in this hour, and in hour two, we're going to be talking about the trial in a New York federal court that is, for all practical purposes, busting the myth that Donald Trump is a billionaire. Letitia James, the Attorney General for the state of New York, has filed a massive fraud case against Donald Trump. She's seeking $250 million in this suit. She's also seeking to disqualify Donald Trump and his two sons from ever holding property or doing business in the state of New York. This could have the outcome of this trial, where the judge has already determined that Trump has engaged in fraud, could have a devastating impact on Trump's finances, on his businesses, and also the presidential election, because so much of what has appealed to Trump as a populist candidate is this notion that he's a billionaire that cares about the little person, the little guy. And if this lawsuit goes as it has been going in favor of Letitia James in the state of New York, Trump will no longer be able to claim that he is a billionaire. His finances will be put on blast for us all to see, since he refused to give the public his tax returns. So Letitia James is doing the work for the country that didn't get done when Donald Trump first ran for president. So we're going to be talking extensively about that case and what it means legally and politically with two of the best legal experts in this business. Okay, right now, Doctor, let's go back to this really busy news day at a time when the whole world is responding to this terrorist attack against Israel that has claimed the lives of 1,000 people. No sign in sight of anything that's going to end this conflict. In fact, Israel officials, leaders have said, get ready for the long haul. This is going to be a long and bloody war with lots of innocent women and children murdered, and we know there are hostages. And the Hamas terrorists have said that they are going to kill a hostage every time there is an Israeli strike against civilians in territory occupied by the Palestinians. So horrific. We need a speaker in the U.S. Congress. This is a time when Congress needs to have leadership. And what we have instead is chaos. And now Kevin McCarthy, who said he did not and was not going to run again to be speaker, took him 15 tries the last time, 9 months ago when he became speaker, held a press conference yesterday with media to lay out what was happening in Israel as if he still was the Speaker of the House, had no power, but, was still acting as if he was Speaker, and now has said, well, guys, if you want me back and you vote for me, I will come back as Speaker. What do you make of this chaos, and what is in sight that is going to restore any kind of order to our congressional leaders?
Yeah, on one hand, it's sad, right? When we think of the chaos that we have going on with our own leaders and representatives, and we think now that we are without a speaker at a time where we need a speaker. And so where do we really point the finger and where do we really point the blame for putting us in a situation like this where we really need someone in a functioning Congress to stand up and set some things in order for us? How do we as the United States respond to the crisis that is taking place? With McCarthy, on the other hand, it's like, make up your mind. Where do you want to be? Do you want to be speaker? Do you not want to be speaker? And at this point, really, what are you coming back to? And can you even trust on people in your party who ousted you, right? You want to blame the Democrats on one hand, but it's really your own members of your own party and this internal conflict that you all have going on. And honestly, if he does come back, if they do vote him into this position, I really do not want to hear about any ongoing battles within the Republican Party or with their little spats with the Democrats at this time. It's really time for Congress, for the United States to unite with this ongoing crisis, with the domestic issues that we have going on in the United States. We need people in place, people in power who want to do their job and want to do their job to serve the American people and not their own personal interests. And so, McCarthy, you coming back into the speaker, for what? And if you get there, then what do we expect from you as we move forward, knowing you just got ousted by your own party members?
Yeah, you're right. The guy has to be a glutton for punishment. After that rank humiliation that he suffered by this junior Congressman, Matt Gaetz, to now basically be groveling. He's basically begging Matt Gaetz and company to accept him back into the fold. And I don't know why he would even want to, because if he does anything that they don't like or they don't approve of, they're going to oust him again. So it's like it's a sick game, but it's not a game because, as you said, people's lives are at stake. They were sent to Congress by their constituents to govern. And they're doing everything but governing. And the two candidates, Steve Scalise, he's definitely not, I think, the choice of any of the Democrats. But Jim Jordan, we should not forget Jim Jordan has been the most avid supporter of Donald Trump and the big lie. He has been as close to Donald Trump as any other Republican has been. He refused for months after the January 6th insurrection to call it an insurrection. He said he needed more information, needed to investigate it further. He has just been a provocateur and been one of the biggest purveyors of the lie about the presidential election being somehow fraudulently stolen from Donald Trump. So I can only imagine, and we know Donald Trump has already thrown his support behind Jim Jordan and wants him desperately to be the next speaker. But can you imagine what kinds of policies might be enacted by Jim Jordan as speaker? Now, thankfully, we have control of the Senate. So even laws that might be passed in the House have to then go over to the Senate and extreme policies like the ones I would anticipate from Jim Jordan probably won't have a fighting chance in the Senate. But I'm concerned about a Jim Jordan as speaker.
Yeah, we all should be concerned about Jim Jordan being speaker. And I think it goes back to, Matt Gaetz' original intentions, right? To put a MAGA Trump supporter in the position as speaker, and to try to somehow wield power and to keep the big lie going, to keep the idea that the election was stolen from Trump and there's a need to continue January 6th. I think that is kind of at play for many of them. And again, I will be concerned if McCarthy goes back into that position, because what kind of concessions did you make? And now, do we trust you not to be a part of the puppet of the MAGA Trump members of your party, and to still, have some type of respectability, if we can even attach that to you, for just someone who holds your position and for someone who was elected to represent people of the United States?
Yeah, the issue of concessions really troubling, because we know what McCarthy gave up the last time, that it took 15 rounds of voting for him to become the speaker. And one of the things he gave up was he agreed to this really ridiculous policy that allows one member of the House to move on a vote to vacate the speaker. The reason he was vacated was because he made that concession in trying to, win the speakership to begin with. And here's some other irony. So Matt Gaetz, the junior congressman from Florida, he's from a state with a huge Jewish American population. And at the time of this ouster, we know the House was in the process of debating funding to keep the government open. This stopgap bill does have some funding for the Department of Defense, which we know offers military support for Israel. But that stopgap measure runs out in 48 days. So there is no guarantee that support for Israel is going to continue beyond the 48 days. So it's be interesting to see what Matt Gaetz would do, again, in a district in Florida with lots of Jewish American voters. Don't know if those voters are Dems or Republicans, but there are Jewish voters in the state of Florida. And we know he has aspirations to be a senator and or governor of Florida. And he would then need the votes of those Floridians, those Jewish Floridians. But think about, how untimely these shenanigans are from the Republicans. And does it appear that the lack of funding availability for Israel is causing them to act any quicker or to act in any more of a unified front in terms of selecting a speaker. So obviously going to keep our eyes open on that. When we come forward, I want to talk about George Santos. Really charging your donors' credit cards without their permission? This new sprawling indictment, superseding indictment against this congressman. Will he finally be forced to resign? Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the voice of reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions. new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar,
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station. KBLA Talk 1580.
Okay, doctor, this new indictment filed in the Eastern District of New York that added 10 charges against George Santos, the junior congressman from New York, involves charges related to conspiracy to commit offenses against the U.S., wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, access device fraud, false statements to the Federal Election Commission, and falsifying records to obstruct the commission. Now, these accusations against Santos, who is, as I said, a junior, in fact, first-term Republican of New York, they seem really different than your typical corruption case that ensnarls politicians. Typically, those cases are, some kind of intricate quid pro quo. You give me some money and I'll vote a certain way, or I'll use my power and influence to, enrich your life in some way. Kind of similar to what we see filed against Senator Menendez in New Jersey. That's a quid pro quo case. He was helping this Egyptian businessman get business, and his wife is getting a Mercedes in exchange for it. But these allegations against Santos, I mean, this is like your run-of-the-mill grifter, like petty theft, criminal, something you'd see on some bad procedural crime show. So he's not like, I'm going to use my power to get a bill passed that's going to help your business, and then you give me $100,000 that I'm going to hide away in my freezer. This dude is involved in stealing people's credit card identities and charging stuff on their credit card without authorization. Ooh, they said he transferred more than $11,000 from a donor's credit card to his own bank account, and that he swindled $50,000 from two other donors using a fake nonprofit, and that he used the money to buy designer goods and pay off his personal debts. I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's just, you have to ask, how is it that the voters in the state of New York voted for this petty, dumb, let's call him dumb because he's gotten caught, dumb criminal?
It's sad more than anything, right? When you think about it, it's not funny, it's sad. It's just sad to see how deep corruption goes, and how people who are saying and running for these political positions, wanting to uphold these ideas of freedom and democracy, and saying they represent people, are stealing from the very people that they say they want to represent, and they want to bring their issues to the forefront. It's very sad. For how, people in New York did not know who they were voting for. It just goes to show maybe we need to do a little bit more background digging into those who are wanting to run for local, state, and federal office. It's really sad. It's really sad that he's stealing from those who were willing to support him. and those who were trying to give him a chance. But at this point, I mean, he really needs to just turn it in and just admit that he's a criminal, and it's okay to be a criminal. You know, just hearing his story, and as you told it for many, it sounded like an episode of Law and Order that's going to be coming to our screens very soon. And I don't know if they need any material because of the strike that's been happening, but hey, take my idea, give me a little credit for it. But I think we'll make a great episode. But we really need to allow Law and Order and all the other creative minds to really dig in and investigate how we, as citizens, residents of these cities, states, we allow ourselves to be hoodwinked and bamboozled by these politicians or so-called politicians who are just operating as politicians behind a mask of being a criminal.
Yeah, this guy, you know, his treasurer just pled guilty to falsifying records to create a fake $500,000 loan that he allegedly made to his campaign. Again, he was, you know, walking around New York, acting as if he was wealthy, as if he had some private company that had made all this money, lying about his mother being in one of the buildings on 9/11. I mean, he's got charges against him in Brazil for some kind of check fraud. Though this guy's rap sheet is so long, you know, and that's why when Donald Trump was running for office, the clamor to get his tax returns. And I remember people telling me, well, what do we need his tax returns for? He's rich, you know, just take him at face value, which Letitia James has exposed that. But the reason tax returns and financial disclosure documents are so important is because they help expose criminality and criminal conduct from elected officials. And it shows they are not above the law. But if you take an oath to represent the people, we need to have a better understanding of your character. I mean, this guy is deeply, deeply flawed. He has deep, deep character flaws. He will steal from donors. Can you imagine using your credit card to make $100 donation or even $1,000? And the candidate then takes $11,000 and transfers from your card to his personal bank account, buys designer goods. He's walking around, you know, trying to stunt in New York with some Gucci purses. Like, what is this guy thinking about? And then we got to talk about these Republicans who are not calling him out. I mean, as outraged as you and I are, that should be what should be coming. This level of outrage should be coming from the Republican leadership, including every one of these candidates that's running for president and the temporary Speaker of the House, the candidates that want to be Speaker of the House. But they won't do it because their thirst for power is more important than serving with integrity, serving the people of their districts with integrity. So the fear of George Santos, you know, being hauled out of Congress in handcuffs is real, but they will keep him because they need his vote. And that's what's equally pathetic about this whole situation. Real quickly, before we run out of time, William Hurd, former congressman, never had a chance, biracial congressman who was, pretty moderate Republican from Texas. There's no base for a moderate Republican. You're either MAGA or you're not. But he resigned, stepped away from his presidential campaign, and he endorsed Nikki Haley. Now, I think he was polling under 1%, so I don't know what his endorsement means. But we've heard a lot about Nikki Haley lately. She's raised a considerable more, amount of money. She's nowhere near Donald Trump, but seems to be getting a little momentum. What do you think about Hurd, a Black man endorsing this Southeast Asian woman for president?
Maybe he was operating on these ideas of people of color allyship on one hand, but I don't think his support of Nikki Haley is going to do her and her campaign too much good, because he's not bringing anyone, any strong base to back up her base. And so on one hand, it's just, again, us sitting back, waiting to see what Republicans make it through and which ones don't at this particular point. And for some of them, Nikki is causing havoc, within the, Republican circles because of the statements that she's making and her willingness to stand on, her beliefs and on her campaign strategies. I mean, she's making it interesting. I will say that, at least on the Republican side. But again, I don't see her, again, causing any major dent in the support that Donald Trump has and continuously still gains. And so it's still looking like, Trump is going to be our forerunner out of the Republican Party.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. It's symbolic at best. Nice gesture. And like I said, maybe it's an allyship around people of color. But at the end of the day, William Hurt didn't have anything to deliver to Nikki Haley. So he delivered her a pretty empty endorsement. Just this last 30 seconds, I do want to acknowledge the family of Hughes Van Ellis, fondly known as Uncle Red. He was one of the last 3 known survivors of the 1921 Tulsa massacre. Mr. Van Ellis and his 109-year-old sister and Leslie Benningfield Randall, who's 108, were the last 3 known survivors of the massacre. And this trio have been locked in, as we know, a years-long legal battle with the city of Tulsa and other city officials in an effort to secure reparations for the destruction committed more than a century ago, I should say, of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So prayers to Mr. Van Ellis's family, prayers for his sister, who is 109 years old, and Miss Randall, who is 108 years old. Hopefully those 2 women will live long enough to see justice and to get reparations, which they so richly deserve. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining me today and helping us break down this news. Again, joining me in this hour was Dr. Malikah Rahim, scholar and historian of U.S. and African-American history at Appalachian State. Always a pleasure to see you, my friend. And until next time, be well. In hour 2 is all about that civil fraud lawsuit in New York that is busting the myth that Donald Trump was or is a billionaire. Stay with us. Lots to talk about when we come forward.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way Black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.